to it. Okay. Welcome to the State of Human Design, Wednesday, September 8th with Jonah Dempsey and your co-host, Jenny V. And this is a little bit of a State of Human Design After Dark combo.
Correct. Yes.
Yes, that is correct. So I'm going to get started. We're just going to pitch some questions. These are all questions I workshopped with Mike yesterday, and then we never got around to recording. But we kind of went through a ton of stuff online and like found fun things for State of Human Design. And we don't have to get through all of them because but we can do some fun ones. Okay, so one of the first things we did a little update. This will be the Facebook update of the Human Design groups online, some of the popular groups. The Human Design and Astrology group is now in the lead at 12,300 members. Whereas Human Design Interactive, the old stalwart, is at 4,900.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference.
Yeah. And Human Design Catalyst, which my little group is at 927. The 5-1 and 5-2 lounge is now up to 1,200 members. The Human Design Relationship Study group is at 5,400 members. Way to go, Jenny Sunderland. Not Jenny V, although way to go for you in many other ways. Jenny Sunderland is a 5-1 and just person that I met very early online on the Facebook groups. I'm pretty sure she created that group at this. Jenny Sunderland?
Yeah, I've seen her name.
You've seen her name, yeah. And so she created the Human Design Relationship Study group, I'm pretty sure, the exact same time that her and I co-created or co-founded the 5-1-5-2 Lounge. But what's interesting is the 5-1-5-2 Lounge has grown to 1,200 members in the same time the Relationship Study group has grown to 5,400. And that's just hers. She runs that.
Yeah.
But we're co-admins. I think she's probably the main admin of the 5-1-5-2 Lounge too. I'm not a very hands-on admin.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Here's a question, and I'll just pitch it to you. Does an electromagnetic between two people, an individual circuitry, tend to make those people more self-absorbed when they're in each other's aura? More self-absorbed.
I need to read this.
Okay, does an electromagnetic, well, see, I summarized it because it was written longer.
So an electromagnetic that's happening within individual circuitry.
Does it make people more self-absorbed? And I mean, the real question is what does individual, and so, some of the answers were good.
So does it make each person self-absorbed?
Yeah, not like they're like a one self that comes together that is absorbed in themselves, but no, like that, the opposite, like they're not absorbed in each other. They're just completely self-absorbed in their own stuff.
I don't know. I think it's, the answer to that is multifaceted because it's dependent on all the other factors, like other electromagnetics you have. Like I know I was in a relationship that had electromagnetic within an individual. It was the 214, but we also had collective. We also had other channels that like.
Yeah, so it gets hard to tell. So that's a really good point, is that it's hard to tell. I think that the question is asking like, so the best way to do it would be say you only have an individual electromagnetic for somebody. I mean, self-absorbed is not generally the keynote. I use that for integration a little bit because what's interesting is the
I think integration is very self-absorbed feeling.
Yeah, and what's funny is you and I have the 3420 together. So what's funny is like I would actually put it that individual is not self-absorbed. Individual is what, like, we don't have the 2838 together. So that's a really good comparison. The 2838 we both have with our friend Johnny. If you're watching, Johnny, shout outs. No, but we both have that with him because he has the 38 and we have the hanging 28. And so what's interesting, just to kind of riff on it for a minute, the difference between integration and individual. So first of all, people don't know that, integration is that bundle, the kind of bundle of 6 channels, I guess, because they all kind of connect. It's usually one of the places when people first come and look at the, body graph, they kind of go, what's that? What's that little like freeway interchange, intersection or whatever? It's kind of weird, right? It's the integration circuitry. And what's interesting is if you just have that, it really does make you, I mean, I won't even say self-absorbed if there's no gate 10 there, but I guess it is survival absorbed and also individuation absorbed.
And just
it's-
really into your thing.
yeah, but there's other kind of self-absorption things in the way that like the 1-3 is classically self, or you know what I mean, like the not that they are though. See, because people
But
being
the
the 1-3s
busyness.
often
the
will focus
busyness
on
and the
others.
integration.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. Is that like a 1-3 profile is like good to be self-absorbed and super healthy in the sense of it's so healthy for them to be deep in their process and not really worry about the other people. They can be in a room full of people. They don't have to be stressed out about what the other people, how they're interacting with them, how they're thinking about it. Same for the 2-4, same with, I mean, any of the right angle, but the right angle is ultimately that profile process is moving towards the transpersonal, right? But what's interesting is the not self of the right angle is going to be so focused on the other. Whereas people who have integration circuitry can be fully in the non-self and just as self-absorbed, and they can actually be even healthy. I guess I would say it's unhealthy for the 34-20s and stuff like that, for them to get absorbed in someone else's thing too much.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless they have something else. Like I know a 34-20 who has a 37-40, like you're saying, as soon as you have another channel, his 37-40, the part seeking the whole tribal circuitry, you know, you're saying you had individual, but also had collective, you know. But I think it's really interesting. So you and I have 34-20. Your 34-20 electromagnetics are your chore friends. We always make jokes about that. It's
Errand
the
friends.
errand friend, yeah.
God.
But it's no, I mean, we're obviously not friends. But anyway, human design after dark, ladies and gentlemen. But no, it's but what's funny is the 34-20, when you're around that person, you're just gonna do you're being empowered to just kind of, but the thing is 34-20, as long as there's no 10 there, it's not really empowering you to do just your thing. Because when you have the 34, see, here's how you do the keynotes. Do you know the, just, and there's no shame here, because I mean, these are just one of Ra's almost nearly infinite riffs that, I mean, it's amazing. He would record 8 hours a day sometimes, how many riffs he had, but this is his,
keynote for 34.
not just all, but all four of them, all four of the gates of integration.
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you this. I mean, he's done the versions of the key. It's also like which one. He's done the versions of the keynoting so many different ways over the years. But in the 1999 Channels by Type book, he does the keynoting. 34 is doing, 20 is now.
Yeah.
10 is for yourself,
Yeah.
and 57 is knowing.
Yeah.
In this context, even though the 23-43 is also obviously about knowing. So there's different kinds of knowing. But the 57 instinctual knowing. Very, very well, thank you. Yeah, and so. So with that, you can really see there's all these permutations of people who know what they're doing, people who don't know what they're doing. They're literally doing something, but they don't have the 57, so they have no awareness. They're just doing it, and you point it out to them, and you say, you realize that you've been going every day and spending 2 hours talking to this friend, or you know, doing this thing for them. And you know, that's what's so funny. Especially left variable people can get stuck in such ruts in life, and they can be in such a automatic mode where, like, especially 34-20s, where they're literally doing stuff where they're like, afterwards, like, I don't even like that person. Like, why did I just do that? You know, why did I do that for them? So like, that's why I want to destigmatize the 34-20 self-absorption stereotype.
They're just busy.
They're just busy, but partly if they don't have a 10, they'll just be busy doing everything for everyone, everywhere. So it's not actually, it's not collective, but if they're your friend, they'll lend you their 34-20. I mean, you know, our friend Carl, who went, he's 34-20 and it helped. He's also 29-46, which is the go on adventure. So I mean, you know, it is, yeah, you can kind of, if you have 29-46 with someone, or even like me, I'm bringing that to the table. I have that myself. And you know, I can then kind of be like, hey, I'll take you on an adventure. Not that it's a tribal bargain, but just we'll do an adventure and we'll do chores, or whatever. We'll make it a chore venture. Chore ventures is that, you know, word of the day, 29-46 with a
yeah.
with
But
a
I mean,
34-20.
like, okay, so electromagnetic and individual. Take 2 and 14. Like, I feel like that electromagnetic is actually a really complementary one. You know, thinking of it as the key and the ignition in a way. Right?
We both have 2-14, yeah, and the 14 is actually, what's funny is
well, I only have 2.
Sorry, we both have 2. That's what I meant. We both have 2 and then get to know the 14. I skipped over a word. We both have 2 and unactivated 14 is what I meant. And I love 14. For those, the first image you should always get for the 14 is the wagon overflowing with wealth, with riches. So it's a wagon that's like, the wealth is like burdened down, like it's like sagging. It's like at the end of one of those jokes where or those riddles where the guy says to the king says, hero, or or to the wise person, I'll pay you here, I'll pay you all this money. And the wise person says, no, actually, I only want 1 grain of rice. But tomorrow you have to double it and double it every day for a month. Well, by the end, he's like taking all the rice in the kingdom, or he's going away, or it's like in Baron von Munchausen. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but in Baron von Munchausen, they do the same thing, and they have that gate 14 symbolism there. They trick and dupe the Sultan, and they trick him and say that something that would seemingly be impossible. Like if this guy can run this distance in such a short amount of time or something, then he has to give them the riches. And then they leave, and their wagon is just like sagging heavy with gold.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is, that kind of symbolism, even thinking about that, like the 214 you've had, like, yeah, you can make a lot of money with that person. You don't think of money as individual usually. Think of it as tribal. The money line, 4521, and money, 4426. 214 is materially surviving as well.
Yeah.
They know how to make money.
Yeah.
A 132, that is the 214, like our friend Taylor, he's, they good at making money. Just in general, 1-3s are good at making money. I mean, just third lines and for other reasons too. But you look at Jeff Bezos, a 1-3 with 2838, purely individual circuitry. Look at that. So, individual can make money. And is that self-absorption? No. I mean, I think it's a good way to distinguish. What Ross says is basically, if somebody only has integration circuitry, he does kind of say at times they're really self-absorbed, in the sense that if there's a fire, they have a genetic responsibility to leave. Not to rescue the baby, not to rescue the dog, not to rescue the cat, just to leave. And so, this is something that 3420s may have to live with, that they have a genetic responsibility to survive. And someone has to. Other people like me do not have that genetic responsibility and would go back into the building or whatever.
Yeah, and there's also just a natural impulse.
Right, but here's the thing. So the natural impulse is to survive when you don't have individual. But what Ross says is, the moment you have the 2838, in fact, from a evolutionary perspective, that's what evolved first out of the integration circuitry. Because integration is proto-individual. It led to the development of the individual circuitry out of it. So that 2838 that comes out of it says life is not worth living if it's just survival and pleasure. If it's just eating and sleeping and having sex and going to the bathroom, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that's all that life is, it's not worth it. And so the 2838 is basically what Ross says is, you take somebody who has the same chart as 3420 or whatever, and then you just add that 2838, and suddenly not enough for them to just be busy doing, busy. Now, of course, he's also doing so much not self-keynoting. You have to realize, like, 3420 sleeping phoenixes are some of the most awake people in human design when they're awake in human design. I'm seeing it now. And, I got to spend a lovely evening with my 3420 friend, our 3420 friend, Lyra. Yeah, when I was with my friend recently, we were in Albuquerque, and the 3420, it's like, it's not, or even just the sleeping phoenix, it has so much energy. I mean, the 34 and the I guess which are the two that have the most? Is it the 14? Are those the two most powerful sacral gates? They might be. I think that's what Rob basically says, is that
34 and 14.
Yeah, it's in the Godhead material. He talks about, is it this? I think it's the same Godhead that has 34, 43, which is a really cute one. Yeah, maybe, yeah, and 14, yeah, riches. It's like, and in Hades, and associated with Pluto, and Pluto means riches, and one of the great associations of it. And yeah, and so that's such a cool one. It has 14 in there also, and it's great because the 3443 is like, 34 knows it's so powerful. It's a 3 channels, but it powers. So it's the only sacral gate that powers more than 1 channel. And it doesn't just power 2, it powers 3. So, I mean, it really is 3. It's like someone who has an activation in 34 is like having 3 gates active. Now, if you have a double or a triple activation there, it doesn't really make a difference. It's just like, it's not like making you, I mean, I always joke that I have like triple activate. I mean, I point out that I have triple activated gate 9 or that, but the triple activations, I don't always necessarily think. It's almost like once you have the first activation, you're immunized against the others. You don't actually get the effect of transits as much. People say it emphasizes that theme in your life. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily know if it does. It's interesting. So, but okay. So the other thing is just to see that individual is really melancholy, and not to say integration can't be, but I mean, it's a little different. I don't think of 3420 people as melancholy. I think of them as actually extremely charismatic and chipper and always on and always, because I think the melancholy starts coming in when you start saying what gives life purpose now my life doesn't have purpose, and so on. And by the way, of course, the tip for melancholic people, when they say my life has no purpose because, you have to erase that because as soon as you give a cause to it, it turns into depression. My life has no purpose because I don't have friends, because I don't have this, because I don't have that. Never explain the melancholy. You can say, I feel like my life has no purpose. My melancholic state is that life has no purpose, not even a feeling, just I sense that life has no purpose. And yet, don't try to explain that sensation or that melancholic experience, whatever it is. So then here's a really nice quote from Ra. Can I read it?
Oh,
Let's
please
do
do.
it. Okay. I'm gonna need some a little drinky. I've got it. Let's okay. It's very risky to connect yourself to someone who is truly only interested in themselves. This is individuality, after all. And unless both beings are equally interested in themselves, it doesn't really work. That's a real risk. After all, it can't be a one-way empowerment. That's called support, and that's tribal. So he's saying right here, just as a starting point, that the individual is empowering, but both people, when they have individual electros, like you with the 214, yeah, you can make money and so on, but you're also empowering, and you have to both be a little bit self-interested then. So I guess self-absorbed is not really the right word for it. I guess self-absorbed sounds a little too extreme, but like self-interested, that's what he's saying, self-interested. And it empowers each other to be self-interested.
Yeah.
And otherwise it's tribal. And what you're looking at in individuality is that only when empowerment is mutual, then you have a successful bond. So it's great. It is showing that there's a binary of empowerment. Some individual relationships, only one person is empowered and the other feels disempowered and is not able, or not even feels, but is disempowered. I love James Hillman, by the way, for pointing out, we say, you feel disempowered as a framing. It's almost like what the youngsters call gaslighting, where you frame everything as, you feel this way, you feel that way, but but it creates this reality. I don't use that word, but okay. I jest. One of the things about individuality is that if it lasts long enough, it might last forever. An individual will find something they like, they will not go looking for something else, whether it's a pair of clothes until it falls off their body, or something they like to eat, or whatever the case may be. They will stay with somebody to the end, even though in empowerment, they are truly in their own worlds. And I guess he's not even talking about the electrode. He's just saying two people who have individual channels.
Yeah.
So, I have a friend who's a pure individual, 214. Actually, we have other friends. Also, Iris is also a pure individual, 214. And I have a lot of 2838, pure 2838 projectors that I know, like 5. And these are, pure individual. I don't know as many 3955s. I know a few, but, it's interesting who comes through your life more than others. And I'm so dry. And on the logic side, I end up with so many 23, from the spleen. So anyway. And I also have undefined solar plexus, so I maybe avoid some of the defined. But okay, isn't that the truth, that the purpose being fulfilled when you're in your own bubble and you're not alone, but your purpose is being fulfilled? So it's like you can be in your bubble, you can be with somebody else, but you're each in your own bubble. But you are fulfilling your purpose because as an individual, it's supposed to be don't interfere with me. It's like David Lynch. He's a pure individual. 360 is all he has, that individual format.
Yeah.
And it's like, let him be in his bubble. Imagine David Lynch in a relationship. Yeah, you're gonna connect, but you're also gonna let them. You're not gonna interfere with his Twin Peaks, because that's what the TV exec. Yeah, that's where his artistry is. Interfere with it. And you have an individual personality son, so there's some of this in you. I mean, this is part of your life purpose, is through the individual. I mean, your line is the line of art, which is another nice fun irony that Rob put in there, that art comes out of boredom.
That's right.
But this is individuality, and there's somebody that you can still see, and they're moving along with you. Nothing will destroy an individual more, and can for their whole life destroy them, than to make a commitment to empower another who does not empower them in return. So that's a really good point. Like, it almost is saying, is like, this is why he's saying companionship and like being with same circuitry and stuff is so easy. Like, collective people with collective people, you understand each other, individual with individual, you get it. Like, there will always be a little bit of a disconnect. This is actually Cohen Hellewart's big contribution. He's the 5-1 projector, and he really, really, really talks about how, like, he has individual circuitry and he has tribal too. Because 3955, I don't really know, but you know, if you have individual circuitry, it's so important that you are heard. Literally, you just want to be heard. It's acoustic. You want the other person to hear you.
Yeah.
You know, I would say if you have integration, it's a different requirement. I mean, he might still say
See
it's
you?
acoustic. No, it's still acoustic, but I would say it's more about survival and individuation, because what's so interesting there is, just like in human design, there's all these convergences. Like the mundane is the most spiritual. Gate 54, one of the most mundane, has the most transcendental of all lines. 54-4, enlightenment and endarkenment. There's all these kind of unities of opposites, you know, conjunctio oppositorums. And it's the same here. You know, where let's see. Yeah. Yeah, it's sorry, where were we? What channel were we on there? Not the I got in a tribal after from 54. And when I get back to the individual though, it was what we were just talking about right before that. It was,
59, 59.
which one?
59, 59.
Oh, right. So we were talking about empowerment, right? And it was that when they empower one person and not the other. And then, but how is it? Damn it, I hate when that happens. There's basically, I'll think of it later, but there's, you know, my brain is faltering because I'm a little bit dehydrated. I always notice I'm dehydrated because I just always lose things. Okay, a little water. Well,
Train off the track.
it's okay. It comes with the territory. As soon as I started talking about 54, I started thinking about the people I know who have the 54-4, and then I was kind of gone because I started just thinking, well, no, but just the transcendental, the 54-4, you know, it's such a transcendental one. And I just started thinking of that kind of mystical transcendence. But I guess
that is really interesting to me too.
Oh, I know exactly what it was. I got it. So he just took me, I had to drink a sip of water. I just needed literally a sip of water. So it's the exact same conjunction of the extremely mundane with the transcendental in pure integration circuitry. So any channel of those 6 channels, if you have a 5710, if you have a 3457, if you have a 3420, I mean, there is a super ultra mundane quality of survival, where the 10 says I have to change my behavior to survive. The 57 says I have to be alert to survive. 20 says I have to be alert also to survive in the now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And do in the now to survive. And that 34 says I have to have all this energy and machismo and display of power to simply raw power to survive. It's different, by the way, from the 14, where I was saying the 34 and the 14 are the 2 strongest sacral gates. And that 14 does not power multiple channels, but it does power the penta. So it powers multiple people sometimes. Yeah. A single 14 can power, you know, 4 other people. So that's an interesting way of looking at that. It's not like the 34, but it's a penta gate. And so they're like the 2, it's like the most powerful. Yeah. But just back to the point of how the most mundane has the most transcendental, like that 54-4, the most, you know, like writing the Christmas cards, as you said, is like this transcendental thing of that is what it's all about in some sense, is the mundane. Well, similarly, with integration circuitry, Ra gives these 2 opposite keynotes, survival and individuation. And at first they sound similar, they sound the same. Individuation just means becoming different in the cell, right? It's a biological thing. But you realize that Ra knew Jung's work. I mean, he was friends with someone who was a Jungian, who graduated from the Jung Institute. His friend Jürgen, I think, who presented to, you know, human design to the Jung Institute in Zurich in the early 90s. And was laughed out of there and all this stuff. I mean, this is all part of the legend of human design. And you can read Jan van Denberg's Ra's work, PDF, which, you know, documents a lot of this. But in any case, that same transcendental thing where survival is like the most mundane thing in the world. Survival, I mean, not even about procreation at this point. It's literally just about survival. Procreation is the defense circuit. The defense circuit is about procreation. This is about not dying. Yeah. It's literally about not dying. That's what you just said. I'm just kind of saying it again. So it's this is about not dying. And this not dying thing of just pure survival is like the most, in one sense, seemingly mundane thing in the world. And yet that's where the transcendental is, because this is also the theme of individuation. So these are kind of the 2 sides of it, the sleeping phoenix and the awake phoenix. I was joking with Lyra saying, we shouldn't call you shouldn't say, oh, I'm a cross of the sleeping phoenix. You're not. You're wide awake. Yeah. Sleeping phoenix is the not self keynote. Yeah. You should say I'm a phoenix, or I'm an awake phoenix, because you know, this right, because it's not the sleeping phoenix anymore. By the way, there's another funny one, which is somebody was saying that I might have written this in here somewhere. I don't remember it, but there might be a little more to it. But I think it was let me find it actually. Oh, I don't know where it was, but it was sorry. someone had asked, it's so great. They asked, do any other sixth lines, basically, I can't find it, but I'll just paraphrase. Do any other sixth lines want to change their name when they come off the roof? And Ra said at this, in some obscure lecture of his, that a sixth line coming off the roof really almost does have a different person, is a completely different person. And maybe even, I don't know if Ra said this exactly, that's why I'd like to be able to read it, but that it's, that they would change their name in some sense.
Wow.
And I mean, of course, it could be symbolic, it could be literal, it could be all sorts of things, but it could actually be a literal change of name. And that's such an interesting thing to be like, okay, I'm off the roof now. I'm really a different person now. I'm really not this, for like, for me, I can't imagine
Want
that.
to enter back in to
Yeah.
society.
Yeah, with a new name, the way Ra changed his name when he entered into society in Ibiza, a new phase of his life. So I do see how a new phase of life does start a new name.
Yeah.
And when Ra he didn't go on the roof per se, but he went on the stage, his stage of life. He always liked to joke, all the world's a stage, and then stages of life, stages of personality development, kind of the double meaning of the time and the space there, meanings. Okay, well, we'll just do a few more of these. No? Are you getting, should we do some human design after dark? No. Okay, here's just a little one. I'm gonna leave some of these to talk about with Mike next time because I really want to address them with him, but just little teasers. So apparently news, there are Bronx influencers from the Bronx, New York. In fact, SZA and Kehlani's reader, who, is now into human design or interested.
Who?
Kehlani and SZA's astrology reader. So a reader to the stars, so to speak. There are these kind of like in LA, there are like David Palmer, the Leo King, is an astrologer for the stars.
Gotcha.
But he's in LA and he's done so many, famous people.
Gotcha.
And so there's somebody that is this kind of influencer from the Bronx, from New York, but not just New York. I mean, that's interesting. The Bronx is like, people from the Bronx are actually from New York. They're not just from other places living in New York. Typically. So that's cool. And then SZA and Kehlani's reader. And then Mike's comment was, these are the modern day court astrologers. And my retort was, yeah, just like in the old days, they needed to come to us, the real mystics, to get the underground knowledge that they could then pair it to their, not to be a hater though, because every celebrity I've met has been really cool. I just feel like a lot of celebrities are the outer shell, or like one track over or a neighborhood over from a lot of the real mystics and mutants. Like the Dada artists were not celebrities. You know what I'm saying? Like you can be historical without being a celebrity, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, celebrity is its own form of historical marking.
It's also a little bit of distortion.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying is, I love when Wallace Shawn, who must be a base 2 person, and people who've watched the base talks will know why, from My Dinner with Andre, begins going, I was a writer living in New York, but I had to act to make ends meet. And there's so many actors who are like begging to be an actor.
Yeah.
And then here's an actor who's like, I'm reduced to acting because I can't sell my scripts.
Right.
And like that puts it in so much perspective. I love that.
Yeah.
If we can have a little digression to the jokes, the Jesus golfing joke already.
Hippie.
Okay, so Jesus is out golfing and he hits the ball, and
oh yeah,
it goes, okay, well, now that you know it, I don't want to tell it. See, I would have just skipped it and said that's a teaser for next time. I'm going to know to do it next time, but I might have to do it. And it's going to be terrible. I'll do it again next time. I'm going to note to redo the Jesus joke next time for Mike, because he probably doesn't know it and will actually let me do the Jesus joke. Jesus golfing joke. Okay. Okay, well, anyway, so his caddy goes, even Tiger Woods can make this shot. And then Jesus is like, I'm Jesus, I'll make it. So then of course he goes in the water, doesn't make it. So Jesus, he's like, I'm Jesus, I'll walk on water. He goes and walks on water, grabs I can tell Jesus jokes. I'm born in the Jesus Godhead. He picks up the ball, takes it back, the golf ball, and then tries again. And the guy's like, dude, you have to be Tiger Woods to make that shot. You can't do it. He's like, I'm Jesus. Finally, these people come up and they see him. They go, oh my God, that man's walking on water. Who does he think he is? Jesus? And the caddy goes, no, he thinks he's Tiger Woods. And as the Slovenian philosopher Slavoj Žižek points out, he's the where I got the joke from. Žižek, you've seen him. He's such a great jokester himself. And he always points out, he says, this shows that everybody needs a fantasy figure to look up to. We all need a role model. We all need our idealized image. We all need our aspired to role, so to speak, to use in design speech and so on. Okay. Quick question. Here's a question from Human Design Astrology Group. Which ways have been the most successful for you guys as HD manifestos? I think they must mean HD manifestors, to manifest a desired outcome. So I imagine this person is a manifestor and is asking other manifestors, how do you do it? But what they're saying, this is just kind of cute. I'm not trying to make fun of them. It's actually really funny. So just check it out.
Yeah.
Imagination and imagery. Okay. Speaking and repeating affirmations. Okay. Writing affirmations. Okay. Orgasms. Speaking over your water.
Hey,
rituals.
I think there's definitely something you said about speaking over your water.
What is speaking? I just didn't know what that was. I thought that was just something they made up.
Water holds vibration.
Oh,
so
I didn't. I thought that was something they just made up. I didn't.
Your water,
okay.
You speak like good, quote unquote, good into your water.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. No,
and
that totally,
you're
yeah.
Actually changing the cells of the water.
Yeah.
So they say.
Yeah, well, I just thought orgasms, I mean, it's also funnier to read. If you read it, it like literally just has like bullet points, and orgasms is a bullet point. And then speaking over your water, which was funnier to me because I didn't know it was a real thing. I thought it was just like somebody just like had their own personal thing they like to do. I didn't know that was like a technique that's practiced by people or something. I don't know. But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, water, yeah, like Masaru Emoto, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, water
like
is
the
memory.
snowflakes.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I mean, you've seen those studies of the snowflakes.
Oh, exactly. That's
like
Masaru Emoto. That's the guy. Yeah, totally. That's him. That's him, the Japanese water researcher. So, and then obviously all those alkalized waters, which I finally got for $200 on eBay. I got an alkalized water filter. I just have to hook it up. So I got to get down to Home Depot. And 3420 in the atmosphere. How are people doing with that 3420 nodal shift? It's going to be some months of this chaos. How are you doing with it so far?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
You're like, how I'm doing with it. You see me every day, all day. No, but I mean, for the.
I mean, you don't, but.
But I mean, it's been busy, right?
It's been busy.
It's not just me. Okay.
No. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I think there is a slight difference between actually doing the 3420 and just like making a to-do list in your mind.
For sure. Well, having defined root also can get the pressure on and then like build it up and then let it all out.
Yeah.
But also you're being conditioned by that 34. I'm being conditioned by the 20. It's different. I have so much energy built up with nowhere to find to go to do it. And then the 20 comes along and I'm just using it on every old thing. Well, yeah, but that's you are your own specific 20. When the transit comes on, it's a little different because it's always moving too. So it's taking you ththrough the whole story, it's taking you through all the lines. Like you have your own specific line, your own color, your own flavor. You don't really get the full. I mean, you get your own. You get a much deeper thing that builds up over time. The specific things we do together, specific to those, and the way that those specific things you do. If you want to get really interesting in it, my 34 is on the design side. So you look at what color it is, and then you say, oh, wow, like I get really dehydrated when we do the wrong thing together, and I have really good hydration when we do the right thing together, or whatever. Say, if I had, the resonance, it doesn't make sense for that one, but dehydration is Neptune, which is for me is an 11. That's my Jupiter. Okay, so this, I want to go back to this for 1 second. I also want to mention something else that was interesting. I'm gonna have a sip of water here. So the manifestor question, though, the question from a manifestor to other manifestors, how do you manifest? I mean, this is a little bit like my response. I mean, we don't have to say misunderstanding. We can just say that the vocabulary is so multivalent that we have to kind of like to me, I understand a lot of what manifesting culture is talking about to be externalizing in human design speech, which is what you put out there in the world you get back to you. So if you go around saying, oh, I hate my job, then your job gets really bad. It's kind of like, it's like a fake it till you make it. Like if you're Howard Stern, you go out there and you start saying I'm the greatest of all time, you start to kind of, people start to believe it. And well, yeah, and the magnetic monopole works through the four. Exactly. That's a very astute observation, that the fourth color, of course, is the fundamental of all the colors, which is the tracking and capture frequency of the magnetic monopole. The four is basically goes in a straight line. This is why I always call it the CDR. The four as a symbol is an arrow that goes in a straight line forever, never wavering, never turning, never going up, never going down, never going left, never going right. It's like literally the straight dimensionality of a tone, or of a, in this case, color, I guess, is where the four really comes into its own, where you can think of it as a sine wave going boo. And that's what that you can kind of symbolize that for. And that externalization is just saying, boo, like you're Howard Stern and you have the, I don't know, you must have some four somewhere. I haven't looked at this chart, but that I'm the greatest of all time, I'm the greatest of all time, I'm the greatest of all time, I'm the greatest of all time. It's just externalizing it. That's all it's doing. And so fours are going along going, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. And people go, wow, it's so great to be around you. Everything's happy, everything's great. Yeah. And so many people talking about manifesting say, change your attitude, you know, and then the people on the other side who are like the kind of trauma defenders say, that's gaslighting and that's patronizing. I've heard all these things said about people who are part of manifestation culture. I don't go on either extreme of it. I'm like James Hillman. I'm not a counterculture revolutionary. I'm like slightly askew to the daily round. That's how he put it, slightly askew. So I'm not like, it's not in the middle even. I'm just like at odds to all of those overly simplistic perspectives.
Right.
Yeah, same as you.
I'm privy to like, the different ways that people interact with manifesting. Like you see online, on Instagram, people are always like, manifest your dream job, your dream life.
Keep talking about it for 1 second. I gotta grab that. Yeah, tell me more about the manifesting ways.
But yeah, seeing all that. But for me, it's like I still really think, if we're manifesting, we're just seeking to align ourselves with our truth, right? And when you align yourself with the truth, then all the good things will come. That's just like
it's about getting to that.
The right things are come, and to me, that is a form of manifestation.
Yeah, it's like the manifestation is like you're aligned to the movement of reality, because your mind is no longer trying to control things. It's actually observing the design, its own unconscious, or not even its. It's just like, it's like we begin to shift from making pros and cons lists to make mental decisions based on a seven-centered rationale of survival. And we begin to make decisions based on strategy and authority, which regardless of type, even for a manifester, is about the mind becoming attuned to the unconscious so that it may then be in touch with the movement of life, the river of life, the flow of life. And this gets down to the deepest levels of base theory of human design.
I mean, another thing with just a quick note on the term manifester and how can they construed with manifesting as a concept is like the throat is the manifesting center, right? Like it's like how to create impact, how to make things happen, how to do something, like how to communicate, like how to what's the right word?
I mean, it's all these things and more. I mean, those are all right words. I mean, but the 11 gates of the throat, only 4 of them have a motor. One of those motors is hindered to only work in response. The other 3 can truly initiate. And I've felt them initiate as not self and realized that I'm not equipped to fully handle that energy as the not self amplify. You know what I mean? Like that 3536. What the deconditioning does, for instance, I have nothing in that channel. You actually have a 36 that's in your incarnation class, so you must know what that's all about big time. But what's interesting is a lot of times we think of one of these channels, we kind of think of one side of it, like how juicy it is and how sumptuous and it's great. Well, also it's anger, because anger is the not self theme of the 3536, right?
Yeah.
And if you have 3536, you're either a manifester or a manifesting generator. It's not a possibility. Because it's a manifesting channel. So it puts that requirement on there.
Yep.
And so that 3536 and that theme of anger, I can just tell you, I noticed the difference completely in what action like you can see that it wants to take action on either side. That 3536 is really high on its wave, and it wants to take action of everything is so great. Let's get married and let's just run off into the sunset together. And then the other shoe drops, and they go, "Oh my God, that you've heard these stories. The person who leaves their family behind after 20 years to
Yeah.
start a new life with someone they just met, and all this stuff. And it's the emotional wave,
Yeah.
right? And then on the other side of it, it's like, and I've experienced kind of both sides, but particularly that 3536 transit we had, where I had just a very angry reaction. And I noticed all the anger that, the anger can only really come in those channels. And it really makes you want to take action. It's like, I want to do something. I want to initiate something. And that's why when I say like waiting to respond, it's like an active waiting. Sometimes it's a passive waiting, but sometimes it's an active waiting where you're actually actively waiting, out. Like you're trying to wait against your own body urges to initiate. So people come to human design and they go, my body told me to do it. I trust my body for everything. Well, sometimes your body wants to punch that person in the face. Our bodies are a mix of hormones. And if we've been living a conditioned life and a conditioned not self thing, those hormones are constantly being activated into all sorts of violent, aggressive impulses and all sorts of stuff. You don't want to listen to your body. You want to listen to your unconscious, to your design. Your design is saying, wait. And to really, I use the terms interchangeably in one sense, and I use them with distinction in another. So it's a little bit confusing, There was the great philosopher Leibniz, and he was accused by many people of being contradictory because they said, Leibniz, you told this person that the mind-body problem was the most important problem for all of philosophy. You told this other person that the mind and body problem was completely insignificant and was not relevant whatsoever and didn't make a difference in the big picture. How do you reconcile it? And Deleuze had a really great thing on this, where he shows how Leibniz's thought was like a pyramid, and things that were the most important thing at one level were thrown away as completely irrelevant at the next. And I just love how deep and complex and how juicy it gets when you really get to these, you know what I mean, to this level of the complexity where it really is. But yeah, as far as the throat center and the impulse to do, if you are a manifester too, there can be this impulse to do. Again, like you have a 3536, you are a manifester. And then they need to learn how to understand that. And they might have a totally repressed 3536 that then explodes in angry road rage or something, you know what I mean? And then they're taking all this action and they're initiating with a big impact, and it's not good for anyone, so that's my little rant about manifesting and manifestors. But this person also, there's a chance that this person is not a manifestor. Oh no, they are. Okay, so they actually say here, I'm a 6-2 quad left emotional manifestor with my sun in Sagittarius and Aquarius rising at Virgo.
I also have Moon in Aquarius.
Oh, awesome. Shout outs to Moon in Aquarius. Well, this person seems really cool. And
I'm trying to learn how to work my magic.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love my quad.
Well,
lefts. This is cool. This is a cool.
Well, I mean, as a 6-2, like you are naturally going to, work your way to having the wisdom of unlocking that magic.
In your 50s, really, right?
Yeah.
Flowering phase. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. A lot of 60s don't want to hear that.
Even on the roof, though, don't you have like an objective?
Yeah, everyone works their magic in all different ways. And
not necessarily working your magic, but you're cultivating it. You're cultivating a perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it is like everyone has magic, which is kind of in some sense, in the Godhead and in the personality. It is that sparkle. It is that little sizzle of genius. And, it's funny because we have to break our covenant with the Godheads, but, you're still an embodiment of Lakshmi. And I'll always kind of be a Jesus figure saying, hey, let's have non-threatening competition. Let's not threaten each other with violence here. Let's just compete with a battle of, aptitude.
Mm-hmm.
All right, is that should we do one last one, or are you good for now? Are you feeling it? We should do one last one. We'll do our final one, right? Is that
Let's do one more.
okay? We'll find a good one.
One.
I know, we're gonna keep looking. Okay. How about two people in a relationship with open G center? Any advice?
Hi.
Yeah, there you go. I can't analyze it. Literally will not let you analyze. Yeah, so two people with open G center in relationship. I mean, you have an undefined G center. You have a
Yeah.
G center.
I have
so-
an undefined, and I don't know if I've dated someone with a undefined before. I've general, and you've said that like statistically, it's most common for undefined G to link up with a defined G. So it's
I mean,
relatively
yeah, I
uncommon,
don't know
right?
how, I don't know the biggest sample size we have of partnerships. It'd be really great to have a large sample size, but I know that, you know, the defined G really has its fixed way and fixed things it likes, dislikes, and fixed everything really, and kind of the same way they were when they were 12, they kind of always carry that. And, you know, with them their whole lives. And the undefined G is really, really, you know, as their true self is able to accumulate and gather and collect all of these different amazing places and people and ways and techniques, everything that's, you know, not obviously not in the logic skill way or in that way, but you know, you can think of it as a cup that fills up. And so they learn all their favorite places in the city. I mean, I'm thinking about like Von Paul in LA, who's 72, and you know, knows all the most amazing places in LA because he's just been there so long, and knows the amazing places in Seattle because he grew up there.
Mhm.
And it's like the undefined G gets to accumulate them, but as they're not self, they don't notice those good places, and they get really polluted by being in bad places and by having toxic friends around. People, you like to use the word toxic a lot now. They
Mhm.
bandy you out, oh, this is toxic, that's toxic, everything's toxic.
Mhm.
Well, toxic really applies to the undefined G. I mean, I guess there can be other forms of toxicity, sure. It's like growing aura, I can't say that. Aura awareness, growing
yeah.
awareness of the aura
Yeah.
by younger generations has led to the development of vocabulary like cringy and toxic, because cringy is like when people are initiating and their generator's not supposed to be. It's cringy. They're
Yeah.
initiating. They're not supposed. You're getting cringy for them. And then toxic is like when you can't stand to be around that person's aura. It's like literally just their aura is making your skin crawl. But yeah, it's a toxic aura, right? It's like the toxic effect in Dark Souls. You're like getting your health bar depleted as you stand there.
Mhm.
And then even after you leave, it takes a while to wear off. Your health keeps going down. But okay, but in any case, the undefined G center, you know, it's really as the not self is going to be in toxic places with toxic people. They're going to have like wrong people clinging on to them, holding on to them, and they're not going to have that discernment. And you can really tell. Say you're undefined G, and you know, and this is not really advice for this couple per se. It's more just advice for people who have undefined G, like yourself. Notice the friend who takes you, like you're a fourth line, like your mate. You're designed to be like universally friendly, like brother and sisterhood, like. But notice where that person takes you, and if
Yeah.
they take you to a place, again, it doesn't mean you owe them anything, but you know, you notice as you start to get these signposts. Oh wow, like
Oh,
the right
totally.
people
Yeah,
take me to my people.
I bookmark the people that like,
Yeah.
you know, show me places that I like that
But
have
also,
like a good taste or
you also
like,
don't owe them though, because Rob made a really good point. And even the way we met with, you know, we don't necessarily owe anyone for introducing, you know, anyone else or anything like that.
Right.
So it's its own thing. So the actual advice I would have for them is just anytime you have an undefined center, is just, you know, that is where you both get to look out the window and watch the movie of that, and you get new episodes of that movie every time a new transit comes along or a new person comes along or a new this or that, where you know you get a new episode of that movie. So like we have undefined solar plexus together, very rare to have in a relationship, by the way, like 1 in 10 or less, probably less than 1 in 10 relationships, statistically speaking, has undefined solar plexus together.
Yeah.
Because you know it's the way it works. But and all the other possibility for all the electromagnetics, the 14 gates, and all this stuff. The you know, for us, we get the, like right now, we're getting like a slow burn of new movies because of our 1222, but we just can't really see the movie because it's behind, you know, Vaseline, because Neptune
Fog,
is
yeah.
there. Neptune is there completely, you know, making it
Vaseline.
impossible to see what's happening. Well, it's a blurry, you know what I mean?
yeah, no.
So we don't know
totally.
what's going on there. But then something else comes along, like a 3536 transit or something, and we get the next episode of that 3536. And that's kind of how it happens. So there's going to be episodes. You know, I like to I shouldn't say I like to. This is almost, I can't tell. This is maybe not the best way to describe it. But I should say I liken the undefined G center to, you know, a chess piece that can only move really correctly with the assistance of someone else. And what's interesting is interdependence is built into every chart. And this is a good place to end. We'll call it a night for this one. We'll call it a wrap. Thanks everyone for
Something else to say
watching.
too.
Well, go do yours. But I was just,
Oh, well, what I was gonna say is it kind of just ramping off of what you're saying currently about interdependence is like, you know, two undefined G people that don't define their G together, you know, if they go out on a vacation, they should absolutely be open to like, you know, the whim of a stranger like at the corner being like, they'd be like, oh, like, you know, they're just looking for a place to eat, you know.
sure, right. That's how you do it when you're an undefined G
Yeah.
and you're not paired. Now, of course, with the fourth line, there's a little bit of stranger danger in your case. So 2/3
I
of
mean,
people.
always with the like
Yeah.
circumstances that feel
Exactly.
right. you
Exactly,
know,
exactly. But say you're an undefined G and you're a fifth
Like,
line, it's like,
not
I'm in
initiating,
business.
but
Yeah.
like generally, like when I've experienced that, like I remember when I was traveling through Santa Fe, I sat in the plaza with my friend Danielle, and someone just started talking to us.
Well,
And-
that's also a classic second line team. The second line's one that's like trying to doing their own thing. And the other point is that any undefined center, it's like nature abhors a vacuum. So people that have that defined center come up and start trying to fill it up.
Yes.
So people that have defined G, they don't know
Yes.
human design, but they just detect in the aura unconsciously without realizing it that you have undefined G. They can just look at you and go, this person doesn't know where they're going. This person doesn't have any idea of direction. Go over there. You know, you can tell. You can see the defined and the undefined G's. I literally, oh my God, I know this guy had undefined G. I get to the point where I just know things, you know? And literally, I'm walking down the street the other day, going up, I'm right by Iconic, and I see keys right on the sidewalk in front of me. And I pick up these keys. Or maybe they weren't really right in front of me, but they were kind of maybe down in the gutter or something. I picked them up. But they were kind of right there. And then I walk, and there's this guy who's literally just scratching his head, and he's looking, but it's like he's a classic like guy with a baseball cap, where like the guy won't ask. You know, he's like he's an undefined G, but he won't ask where. It's like I never ask where things are in the grocery store because I have defined G, so I just go straight to them. But a lot of undefined G guys, because of this like masculinity, toxic masculinity thing, whatever, you know, they won't ask. So he's standing there and he won't ask me. And then we literally like jinx at the same time. I go, "Are these your keys?" He goes, "Oh, do you have my keys?" Or like, "Are those my keys?" Like he's like asked at the same time. He's like, "Thank you so much. I've been looking everywhere for these." And he got in his car, and his truck was parked, you know, halfway down the block. So I can only imagine they just fell out of his pockets and he couldn't find them. But I mean, I just like instantly found his keys for him.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
here's your keys. And then I just kept walking. It was like, that was literally our entire interaction. So yeah, the open G advice, people in place, notice, you know.
Did you already
Find your
say the
favorite
right
places.
people?
The right people, right place. Oh, and then here was what I was going to say was kind of the possibly this. I don't really end on a sad note, so I think there's something to say after this. But the chessboard that can only move, the interdependence. What I was going to say is so many undefined G people, particularly, I mean, even if they're manifestors, even if they're, I mean, it doesn't matter. They're so impatient, probably particularly if they have an undefined root, but all of them, they have so much FOMO, they have so much pressure on themselves, and they're so impatient that they initiate moving and they find the place themselves because they don't want to wait for it to come to them, or they don't want to wait to be able to initiate with the right person, or however it is if they're a
Yeah.
manifestor. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, you have people like, you have reflectors who by definition have undefined G, or you have any other type of undefined G, and they're like, screw this, I quit. And then they go find another job, and they're like, okay, let's find this job, let's go here, let's find it. And then they go and they're like, I don't like this house anymore, I'm moving. And they go find another house, and they're like, this is what people do.
Yeah.
Humans just go find another house, go on
Yeah.
Craigslist. do this.
Yeah.
Now, I won't say that you always have a bad run on Craigslist, because you've had good luck, and I do
I
think
have
undefined G's can quote unquote find
I found
in a way.
best friendship from Craigslist.
I mean, but the finding, it's so weird. It's like you can tell when it's good or bad finding. You can tell what side of the binary you're on. And sometimes it takes a long time though, and that there is always this risk because you can't tell immediately. And as a fourth line, you kind of have to, you know. So, but anyway, I guess just to kind of end on a positive note, for all the undefined G people out there, just realize your defined G friends are all like fighting over each other for the chance to give you that direction, because it's so exciting for a defined G person to be like, I went this way, and I trailblazed. Nobody else in my class went this way. All the other students told me I was crazy, but I kept going this way. And now I get to share my way with you. And of course, like I always joke with the meme, you know, the guy holding the sign saying there's more than one way.
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean, you know, there is, and every defined G person is going to be limited by their way, but that is their way. And some of them will have trailblazed some unique way, especially if they're 2551, the kind of trailblazer channel. But regardless, they will have gone their own direction in life. I went my own direction in life. Now, when I meet an undefined G person, I say, this can be your direction too, if you want it to be. There's a great scene from that old movie where there's you know, like a woman standing by the train tracks, and she's working and carrying her stuff, and then she sees the train tracks come up, and as the train goes by, it shows every different scene of the world. It shows the scene of people dancing and kissing, and people making food, and people sleeping, and people fighting, and people, you know, all the different stuff. And then finally it slows down for a minute to stop at their station, and then she's just looking in wonder, and he goes, you're on the outside looking in, get in, look out. And that's the defined G. That's right there. He's the defined G saying, hop on my train. You know, defined G people are trains that you, or they're buses that you can ride to a different part of town.
That's so great.
You know, that's the way that thing goes. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.